Yeah, so her follow-up next Monday. Where he's on 50-50. Before he saw him and about whether she might consider should have stayed for tonight and do it.
All right, I want to call the meeting of the Upson County Board of Commissioners for July the 13th of 2011. All rise for the invocation. I'll do it. Lord, bless us as we're about to do the county's business, and bless all these people that showed up and support our county well. Please be with us all as we pass through this journey in life together. This we ask in your Son, Jesus' name, amen. Amen. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all. First thing on the agenda is a public hearing. SPX 2021-05, applicants Sidney R. Long and Matthew R. Young of Pike County, Georgia, have requested that Upson County permit placement of an AR zone dog kennel on their property at 968 Windsweet Farm Road. So we need to open up a public hearing.
So moved.
Got a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good. We got anybody that wants to speak? Okay, hang on just a minute. All right, I got 3 people that want to speak on this dog kennel at Windsweet Farm. So, well, we really only got 2, or only 1. Marlene Gibbs. All right, you stand up and plead your case.
So I'm the neighbor.
Yes, ma'am.
And my only concern is the noise and the increased traffic, because we moved out there from McDonough 15 years ago to get away from all the noise and the traffic. And I just think it'll be increased traffic and constant noise from dogs barking.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know if it'll ruin the value of your property if you went to sell it. I don't really know. With the noise of 28 dogs. And I guess my other concern is down the road, 10 years from now, can they add to this kennel once it gets approved? Can they just keep adding to it? That would be my other concern. You know, down the road, who would ever police that if you wanted to keep adding to it?
Well, they'd have to pull another permit, so.
You know, that was my other concern about that. But, yeah, but that's my main concern.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the noise and the increased traffic on the road.
Thank you. I've got Sidney Young and Matt Young. Did y'all want to speak?
I guess I can just tell a little brief synopsis of what we plan to do. It will be a daycare and overnight boarding facility, like if people go on vacation or what have you. We plan to go with the limit that was made on the first meeting of 32 dogs on the property, and we have 4 personal dogs. So that would limit us to 28 in daycare or boarding. And we also set a late night limit of the last let out to, I guess, coordinate with being peaceful at nighttime. At 9:30 p.m. would be the last let out time. And I also plan to have scheduled drop off and pickup times to coordinate with life, to where it doesn't interfere too much with people's job schedules and things like that. Drop off in the morning, pick up in the evening, that type thing. There'll be set let out times. They're not gonna be outside, all day. The kennels will be indoor. The dogs will be kept indoor, until let outside for playtime, potty time, that type thing, and that will be monitored. So, and at no time would 28 dogs be outside at one time. It would be, managed with, if dogs got along with each other or whatever the case may be, there may be an instance where it's just one dog outside at a time. So.
Matt, you wanna say anything?
She said nothing.
All right, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye. All right, Mr. Good.
Good afternoon. This is the case of the special exceptions, 968 Wynn Street Farm Road, the agricultural residential dog kennel. Sidney R. Long and Matthew R. Young have requested approval from Upson County for the special exceptions of the dog kennel on 34 acres and 34.41 acres. Under the special exceptions, the rule lists agricultural residential zoning districts, 504B11, kennel of commercial natural meeting, the following development standards. A, all structures must be set back 200 feet from the property lines, as permitted uses which may be approved by special exceptions. Here is an aerial photo showing potential driveways. The dog kennel will be the yellow star, the green star is the home, and the red one is the entrance. You can see on the right side that the property value, well, the property is 31.41 acres, and I zoomed in so you can get a better detailed picture of, the kennel. And from the kennel to the houses, it's like 500 square feet away from all the neighbors in the facility, or all the neighbors in the neighborhood. Okay, and this is the model of the dog kennel. This is the outside model. It's going to be 16 by 50. Individual dog kennels will be inside, ranging for small dogs and large dogs, 4 by 6 and 4 by 8. The maximum allowed dogs will be 28, including the owner's 4, will be 32 or 28 dogs from companies, and the kennel will hold up to 16 dogs. This is just a picture of the inside of the dog kennel. When you walk in, you can greet and handle your business about placing the dogs in the kennel, and you'll be 16 kennels inside the facility. And this is just showing the location. As you've seen on the other slide, the entrance, this will be the entrance on the right, and the opening on the entrance on the left, the opening on the right. It will be wide enough to, people to get through for to drop off their dogs and etc. And this is just the land right here where the dog kennel will be placed. Okay, and the planning commission decision approved it 4-1 vote with a couple conditions. The maximum dogs allowed is 32, including the owner's 4, and all dogs got to be in the kennel at 9:30. That's all.
Anybody got any questions for?
I do have a question. He said a maximum of 16 kennels, I believe.
Yes,
And then you have 32 dogs. So they must be in the kennel by
9:30.
9:30. What happens if to the other 12 dogs, you only got 16 kennels?
Sir?
You only have 16 kennels. Is there one dog per kennel?
1 or 2 dogs per kennel, I'm sorry. But they have to be, I want to say, the same breed, or so they can't just mix dogs.
Could the applicant clarify what the intentions are on that?
So it would be, I guess, someone like me who has multiple dogs. I could put 2 of my dogs in one kennel, 2 of my dogs in another kennel. But if someone comes that specifically only has one dog, then their dog would be kept, alone in its own kennel. So up to 28 dogs can be housed in there, but that would be if everyone who was given business had multiple dogs, which would probably be rare.
I have a question too, yeah.
Go ahead.
Is this kennel gonna be, climate controlled,
Yes, we plan to have AC, heat and air.
I have a question. Do we know how many kennels that are known kennels in Upson County today, registered, paying?
We have
This-
three.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Mhm.
But one other question for Mr. Bridges. Out of those three, do we have basic knowledge as to how many animals they can house between the three total?
No, because they're more like a kind of a grooming place. Other than not a kennel, they just groom the dogs there. Maybe once their customers come, they pick up the dogs, so they're more kind of like a kennel.
So none of those establishments are overnight boarding?
No.
Okay. That's different. Then this will be the only one.
Yes, it seems like there's a need for it.
Any other questions? All right, you've heard everything from the owner, the people that are opposed, and Doug Courier's crew that took care of showing us a good slideshow. If I got a motion on it?
I'll offer a motion that we approve the special exception based on staff's recommendation with the conditions.
All right, I got a motion on the table to approve with conditions that were already decided by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I got a second.
I second.
All right,
further discussion?
got any further discussion?
How far is the distance to the nearest home? You said 500?
Including the owner's home is 200 square feet, but the neighborhood homes from the kennel to their home is like 500 square feet.
Square feet or linear? I'm sorry about that.
Square feet. I did a meaning of the home's distance around the kennel.
What straight line distance to the nearest homes?
Sorry.
The straight line distance,
To the nearest home, 200 feet.
200 feet.
That's the owner's home.
Well, how about the neighbors?
Neighbor.
The neighbors, I want to say, it's like 460, I want to say.
Is there gonna be any type of, barrier between these, any type of shrubs, fencing?
Can I pull up the PowerPoint?
Absolutely.
Because the dog kennel is going to be housed in like some shrubs. It's like a shrub area.
I just didn't see that as part of any,
Conditions.
conditions on the.
Okay. Trying to pull it up. I don't know if you can see that what the dog kennel is at. It's gonna be, it's lined by trees all around, and the dog kennel is gonna be right in between there.
So is I guess my question is to you, or better yet to you guys, is there is this gonna be visible from your neighbor's house? They're gonna be able to look right over on it?
Not straightforward, no.
There's actually, two line of trees. There's the cedar trees that will directly surround the area, and then there's pasture, and then another big row of pines and all that stuff, and then another pasture, and then their house.
Any more questions?
Would we wanna consider, we've got a motion, to carry forward this is to reverse that motion, but possibly, having where they maintain that barrier, that like a couple years down the road, that barrier doesn't get taken away. I mean, that way it keeps that privacy down for the neighbor.
What would you suggest in terms of what they maintain
Maintain a vegetation barrier.
of some certain size? just a vegetation
Yeah,
barrier?
yes. Of at least, what are the current height of the trees there now? Probably
12 foot or more. They're cedars, old cedar trees.
So would that burden you greatly to have to maintain at least a
We
12
won't
foot?
there.
Okay, yeah. I would just like to see.
Okay.
You need to amend your motion.
Yeah, I'll amend it to, do I need to pull it? Okay, I'll amend it to include the additional condition that we, that the applicant maintain a vegetation buffer
Of at least 12 feet.
of at least 12 feet.
Second.
Second that.
I got a motion on the table with an agenda, amended motion. Jessica?
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes. That's it. All right, next on the agenda is a consent agenda, and on the consent agenda is a regular.
They may have signed up twice.
You.
It could be the same people. I don't know.
No. Now is public comment. So Peggy Smith.
Reggie.
Hmm?
Reggie.
Oh, Reggie, excuse me. I didn't see the little.
My name's Reggie Smith. I live at 6595 Indian Trail. I wish I could come to the Board of Commissioners without any conflict, but I've got some conflict in my heart right now. Last meeting, we had a conversation about, we feel the need to offer our county employees a holiday for Juneteenth. I don't agree with it, but that's just my opinion. If this is such a strong feeling for the commissioners and everybody else, Juneteenth has been around since 1865, and no one's had a concern with making it a holiday until recently when it's been in the news media. The news media wants us to just have something to feel bad about, and we don't have a reason to feel bad. That's the least thing this county needs to be talking about right now. It's not an issue in this county. This county needs to move forward. And like I say, everybody up here has been on this board for at least 8 years. If it's been an issue, you've had opportunities to bring it up before now. We don't need to take a lead from the federal government to set a holiday because they can't run our country. They're making a mess of our country. Like I said, I don't approve it, but I know it's your choice. But I thank you for listening.
Thank you. I got another one here, and I cannot read the name. Daryl. Is it Daryl? I cannot read that
Have
last
anybody
name.
else that would have signed up?
Did they
It's
sign?
800 Windsweet Farm Road.
That's
what
the
it is.
applicant.
That's the applicant. Indian Trail Ridge. Yep, that.
It must have been
the other
Windsweet.
The other two are, they've already left, they were part of the public hearing.
Okay. That'll close the public comments. Now we go into consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the regular meeting minutes for 6/28 of 21, a call meeting minutes of 7/1 of 21, approval of the revised employee handbook, approval of a resolution with the district attorney on state paid employees reimbursement, and approval of the 2022 mid-year budget revision, and approval of the Three Rivers Area Agency on Aging contract. I have a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
I got a motion on the table. We got a second.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes.
Chairman
Allen Jones, I'm sorry. Commissioner Jones,
Yep. I'm good.
sorry.
That's all right. You don't see me up here. I sit lower too. All right, new business. Presentation on the IDA update by Kyle Fletcher.
There we go. All right. Thank you for allowing me to come tonight. I guess I've been on my speaking tour of late, and this started after a comment that was made during the city's Community Relations Committee several months ago, and they were speaking, one of the spokespersons for the group mentioned that we need more jobs in Upson County. And I've been working diligently to go back and make sure that elected officials, community members, anybody that'll listen to the story, that that's not the case in Thomaston and Upson County, and it's not the case in the entire country. I think people just get used to saying things over the years. They've been saying since the mills closed, we need more jobs, we need more jobs, but there's really more that goes into that, and I know you've got a lot of business left to take care of, but this presentation I'm giving tonight has been given to the Community Relations Committee, the Upson Lee School Board, the City of Thomaston, the IDA Board, and now the County Commission. And as elected officials, I would hope that you know that it's not jobs we need, it's people to go work these jobs that we need. But what I'm asking any and everyone is to get that message back to your district, get it to your church members, your family, anybody you can do, because if there is a misconception that we need more jobs, then people may not even be motivated to learn the truth by looking at, if you drive down Highway 19, you're going to see hiring on most things, or if you're on Indeed or Facebook pages and such, you'll definitely know. But I'm just going to give a quick IDA summer update, and the slide that's up there right now is a happy slide because those people are working at local industries in Thomaston, which is exactly what we want. The next slide is we need to understand the numbers when we talk about it, and I've got some demographics up here. You can look up statistics, you look at 10 sites, you get 10 different statistics, but basically these numbers should be pretty close. The household income here in Upson County is $54,382. The average median age is 40, and you see population, male and female. And then the middle block is interesting as well as we talk about workforce, and it's educational attainment. Less than a 9th grade education is roughly 5%. Then you've got people with a 9 to 12 education, that's 13, almost 14%. Those that have graduated from high school is 36.27%. So you're looking at, gosh, almost, let's see, 36, about 50% in our community that just have, you know, a high school education. And how does that impact our workforce? Well, it negatively impacts it, quite frankly, because the skill sets that they may have may be limited. Then we look at some college, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, and so on. Because we understand the dynamics and demographics of our community, because you've got to start with what your strengths are, or your weaknesses, or your opportunities. We're very fortunate in our community to have Southern Crescent Technical College. The IDA partners with Southern Crescent as well as the Upson Lee school system by pushing and encouraging the dual enrollment program. If you're at Upson Lee High School and you participate in dual enrollment through Southern Crescent or Gordon, you can actually graduate from high school and have an associate's degree and certifications from Southern Crescent. And a lot of that is paid for. So it's a matter of helping get the word out and making sure that the IDA office has continual contact with the CTAE director at the high school. And they have career pathways. And I want to make sure, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I went out there and I said, look, film is huge in the state of Georgia. Have y'all got a pathway that talks about film production and the audio opportunities with, you know, all the wonderful technology that's available? And Southern Crescent has a feeder program with a curriculum in that as well. So we spend a lot of time making sure that our school system knows what our industries need, and they do that in various ways as well. Workforce challenges. As we know, so many in the retail and industrial sector are hiring. Restaurants are having to change their hours or close the restaurants and only have the drive-through open and things like that. And I was talking to some people with a local industry that have an assembly line production. And if you've got 9 people on the assembly line and 2 are out or whatever, it impacts production. So you not only have a supply chain issue with COVID and people still trying to get in supplies, the cost of lumber and steel being outrageous, but you've got, I guess one of my local industry leaders said it best when he said his biggest competition right now in getting workers to come is the federal government. And I've been talking with community leaders in the chamber, what else can we do, to get this message out? And we think that once the benefits quit coming for people with unemployment, that a lot of people are going to be looking for jobs at the same time. So I'm working on several different initiatives, and I won't go into those tonight, but if you read your weekly and monthly reports that I send to you, you'll probably already aware of some of the things going on. I spend a lot of time inside the industry saying, hey, what are ways that we can help? Not only can we help them understand some incentives they can get from the state and local level, but I also have that communication with the school system. Several years ago, we had we had a bus tour for the teachers and administrators of the school system and the industries, and we went to like 4 or 5 industries. We got on a school bus at 6:30 in the morning and did the whole thing. And the facility industry managers and HR directors were able to talk directly with the teachers, the counselors, and the principals and they said, your students cannot fill out an application. And the teachers that responded said, can you send us your application? We'll put it up on the smart board and we'll actually teach them from a true application. And with online opportunities now, things are different. But I want to talk a little bit about soft skills too, because the biggest industry complaint I get on top of anything is people passing drug tests. And I don't know what we can do about that. I think that probably having some kind of workforce development task, which we have, that includes law enforcement, maybe on some potential initiatives, but it's frustrating when people fill out an application and know they're going to be drug tested, and they fail, or they come to work and they're there 1 week. But we're a little limited with that, and I don't have the answer to that. But soft skills are the way that you communicate in an interview, maybe how you dress, how you have eye contact, shake a hand. And I'm trying to make sure that the school system understands that some of these students aren't going to learn these soft skills at home. They're going to have to learn them at school or out in the community or wherever they go, but that's an important part of a job. But anyway, our industries, they're all struggling finding people and then keeping them. I went to a career fair at the high school, really talking about our local industries, and had things set up on, you can work on a robotics machine like this or do that. And they said, do you have to work a 12-hour shift? And I was going, well, here and here you do. And I'm not doing that. I said, okay, well, let's find something else for you. So there are challenges with this generation of students that are coming out of school, but we've got to find ways to reach them, and equally as important, we've got to find ways to reach their parents. Do these parents understand there are 3 opportunities at Southern Crescent Technical College and other places? So we're beating the drum about as loud as we can. I worked with Chairman Allen, and he was the chairman of 3 Rivers at the time, and we got a $50,000 grant to offer a manufacturing basics for high school seniors who had not decided what they were going to do. Around Christmas time, the guidance counselors will pull the high school seniors in. Hey, are you going to go to a technical college or a traditional college? Are you going to go straight into the workforce? What are you going to do? And for those that are undecided, this is a great course for them. It's an intense 2-week course. They go all day, and by the end of the 2 weeks, they have a certification, and they know how to drive a forklift and do various things. And we we marketed it like crazy for months. I went into schools, we put up posters, talked to the teachers. I think they talked one person into signing up for it. Nobody was interested. Is that timing? Is it COVID? I don't know, but you're offering something free. For some people, I think it's gonna take them graduating in May, and then when the newness of graduation wears off about Christmas time and they wanna buy some things and don't have any money, maybe then they'll realize they need something to do. So, it's kind of a, I'm not gonna say a sad presentation, it's a challenging presentation, but it doesn't just fall on the Development Authority, nor the school system or elected officials. It's a community issue. It's gonna take all of us putting our heads together and figuring out, and I would imagine on the way we're gonna irritate some people with what they say, but I will be completely honest with you, as an economic developer that is tasked by you guys to recruit new industry and new business, and we can't even find people to work for the industries that we do have, it's really scary. I mean, yeah, I would love to have a company come in that's gonna invest $50 million and hire 75 people, but I won't sleep until that project's over, because where are we gonna find 75 people to come work for them? So, and on the flip side, I will say I've talked to industries and made sure that they're aware of the wages that are being paid, because if you're offering $9 an hour, you're not helping yourselves. You're probably gonna have to pull in. Some have really raised the bar because that was the only way they could get people to come to work. So I just kind of wanted to let y'all know what we were doing. I talked to the school system. I've talked at length with Dr. Jericho and Principal Jarvis Price, thank you, and the counselors. And the CTA director, Ricky English, is very passionate about it, but quite frankly, the school system's got so much on them and what they have to do at the state level, but we continue to work with them and beat the drum. And if you have any thoughts, or information, ideas, sorry, COVID kept us from meeting in person for about 18 months, and so we're hoping to get the Workforce Development Task Force back on track if we can get back in the schools in August. But thank you for listening. I know you've heard it before, but if you have any questions or if you'd like for me to go speak to a group, I'm putting together something with the Upson Beacon that'll be coming out next month. It'll be on their website, the chambers, the IDAs, and be plastered all over town. There's going to be no one that lives in Upson County that can say they didn't know there were job opportunities. So just watch your weekly report for that information, and thank you again.
Anybody got any questions for me?
I have one question.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, do you know if Southern Crescent has any certification in like the IT world or offers like the PMP certifications?
I do not know. They have the CNC stuff, and DART Container Foundation gave them $100,000 2 years ago for a robotics lab, and but I don't know specifically about IT. Some of it's not going to be at the Southern Crescent Flint River campus. It may be in Griffin. But one more thing I wanted to mention to you: the Electric Cities of Georgia MEAG bus tour will be coming through Thomaston in August, and I would like for y'all to join me. Some of you came for a breakfast back in 2016 that we had at the airport at 8 in the morning, but I'd like for you to meet some of the project managers, so be checking for an invitation to that. It's really a big marketing thing, and we don't have a building to market, so we're going to be doing a lot of talking about our industrial park, and then we'll get on the bus and y'all can be on your way. It'll take about an hour of your time, but I hope you can join us because you're a valuable part of the team. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is a discussion and consideration of an agreement for the establishment of a court technology fund.
Mr. Vice Chairman, the board may remember this was an item that was on our May 5th work session. I think there were several concerns that were all related as to the mechanics of how this agreement works. Immediately thereafter, or weeks after that work session, the chairman and I sat down with the clerk to go over the agreement in detail. And so if the vice chairman would prefer, I'll provide what I believe to be the synopsis of this agreement with the potential agreement with the Board of Commissioners and the Clerk's Authority. It's essentially a grant that will be receipted to the county for the purpose of scanning previous years documents relating to real estate transactions. I think I got the clerk is nodding at me, so I feel like I've got that correct.
There's more detail. You're doing a great job.
So we talked through some of those concerns with the clerk. I'm comfortable with the language. I know that the attorneys looked at the language, but essentially it's an additional revenue source by way of a grant, and the scanning will take place, and of course the clerk's authority, they regain the revenue by folks logging onto the system, and for every transaction that an attorney or a title researcher or someone would pay that fee for, they get a piece of that fee back to recover the cost. So this is not necessarily a fee that would be in addition to the fees that the clerk's office already charges. This was just a fee that's already being charged by the clerk's authority to provide this level of technology. We'd simply just be expanding the historical library. So that is my understanding, Mr. Vice Chairman, that I was not very clearly able to articulate at our May work session. But if the board would entertain our Clerk of Superior Court, she is here and is willing to answer any questions you have that might be more detailed than what I provided.
Anybody got any questions for him?
And I can elaborate just a little bit if you'd like. Mr. Tinsley did a great job explaining pretty much the basics of what this is about. Fortunately, I have two big room users here, so they'll understand more too about what this is about. We have already scanned in the images. This was a plat project that I had college students come in, and they scanned in every plat that we have. There was a total of like 1,200 plats that they scanned in over a course of 2 years. This was before the pandemic hit, so luckily we already had those images scanned in. The problem with that is that they're not searchable. So you can go to the Clerk's Authority's website, or anyone can go to that website and retrieve that image. The problem is you have to know the book and page number. And that is something you're not going to know unless you're just an attorney that's very familiar with it, or a title researcher, or a surveyor themselves. You're not going to know that book and page number. So what we're wanting to do with this grant money is the Clerk's Authority has already been given the images, but we need to index them. And the indexing is what's going to cost this money. So there's a vendor that has been approved by the Clerk's Authority that will come in. They already have their My Real Estate vendor anyway. They already have our images. So they'll take those images and index those images so that they're searchable on the Clerk's Authority's network, so that people can go in and search it by name, and then retrieve that image through print or through a PDF. They are charged a fee, and then through that, we receive a copy. The clerk's office receives a monthly copy fee check from the Clerk's Authority, which is turned over to you guys, to the county, not to you guys, but to the county. So what I'm asking for, and what this agreement basically is asking, is that we set up a line item, a revenue line item, having this money being received, but that it's designated strictly for a technology project, a one-time project for this certain amount of money. Okay. Did that help?
Yeah, I just got a couple questions. All right, so you answered one of my questions. It's a one-time grant.
One-time grant.
So we get this grant, whatever that amount may be, we get this, and then we use that up until the grant's gone. At that point, do we reapply for a grant, or
You don't have to. All right, so what this is, so the payment is $21,558. Okay, so that's a one-time image compensation. They're calling it image compensation. That's going to be coming to, I think it'll actually come made payable to me, and then I'll turn it over to you guys in my monthly accounting. So what but I can do it as a separate payment to you guys, so that it'll go into a revenue line item. I have a vendor that has given me quotes, and I wish I had brought those. I don't have those with me, for the index, and it was around $20,000 that it would cost to index those plats. So it's $21,558. It's roughly around $20,000 to have those images indexed. So there may be a little bit of money left over, or there may not be. I mean, I may even have to, there may be more that I may have to pull in from another line item to pay. But right now, the quote is around $20,000 to have those images indexed. So that once that's done, we're done. So there'll be no more revenue coming in for that purpose. Now you guys, I think we get 50 cents an image. So I think the most I've ever gotten is about maybe $100 a month. But this will help increase that revenue that'll come to you guys. Because once it's searchable by name, then people will go in and they'll be able to print those plants off by the name. Hopefully we never have to live through another pandemic again. But it was a challenge. My office was the only office that was mandated to stay open in the county. So we had to work straight through the pandemic, and we had to keep that deed room open. That was the one thing that the governor specifically said had to stay open, was the deed record room, so that we could keep our economy going with real estate transactions. So I was required by law to keep that deed room open, and yet also manage people who may or may not be, have COVID. And we have a really small record room. So we tried to put as much stuff online as we could so that we could email it to people. We set up email accounts, emailing Nash several times a week, and even sometimes, Mr. Gary would email me stuff, and we'd file a plat in another county if we had to. So we were doing this by having those images scanned in. If we had not had those images scanned in, we would have been in a mess. So this way, it will generate a small amount of revenue coming back in, but it's not going into this. I'm not asking for that revenue to be put back into a technology fund at all. This is a one-time payment in and my payment out to the vendor to cover the indexing. Any future revenue that's going to be earned from that, and I'm not going to know. They don't send me a breakdown. When they send me my copy fees each month, I don't know if it's a plat, I don't know if it's a deed, I don't know what it's for. I just know the Clerks Authority will be paying me for images off of my website, and I receive that copy check, and then it's turned over to you at the end of the month.
And I'm asking strict because I don't know, and I'm trying to just make sure I cover my bases here. But so I'm making an assumption here, and we know what that means. But so all our images are scanned in there.
The plat images.
All right. So anytime there's a change, what happens then? I guess is this an ongoing process?
Okay. These are historic.
Okay.
Historic. And I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. These are historic images. Anything now, I think it started in 2012. Going forward, everything's automatically sent to the Clerks Authority with indexing information. So everything's electronically filed now. So when the surveyors or attorneys file a plat electronically, that plat image is captured, and we have a vendor that I pay monthly that indexes that, and that's sent to the Clerks Authority and on my local system as well. So no, it's just historic.
Okay. And will we call up?
Yes, we'll be called out, and we're actually one of the few counties who actually had those images already scanned in. So this is some counties are actually going to have to go back in and scan these images and pay for the indexing. So we're a little ahead of the game just because I had already had those images scanned in by some college students.
Vice Chair. Make a couple of comments and
Sure.
ask a question. I will tell the board, as a practicing real estate attorney, this is definitely a good thing that's needed. But one thing that I'm confused about, though, if it's a one-time payment, is there a need to renew it?
There's not, and I think that language is in there in case that money is not paid out in a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, the only thing I can think is why, and that was something that the Clerks Authority provided me with as a template. The only thing I can think of on that is because maybe it may take longer to complete a project, and we don't pay, of course, on a project until it's completed. So the only thing I can think of why that might still, that language is in there is so that maybe that project's not completed in a year. We want to make sure that we're able to still pay and have this money available after a year. That was the reason for that. Because this is a huge project. Our county is small. It shouldn't take more than a year to get this done. But now if the vendor gets other customers ahead of me, then I'm going to get pushed down the list, and it could take more than a year to get it done.
So if, in that scenario, if, say, in most contracts like this, you see a termination clause that allows either party to terminate upon written notice to the other party, that wouldn't be an issue.
No.
Yeah, that would be the only thing that I would, reviewing the language, the only question I had was the renewing of it, because I understood it to be a one-time payment. But given that scenario, I think my recommendation would be to, that the contract is fine, except for you need to add some language, a termination clause that allows either party to terminate upon written notice of 30 days written notice.
We need to amend this and then bring it back.
Could we vote to approve with that?
My recommendation would be to include that as part of the motion to approve, if that was the board's choice.
Anybody else got any questions?
I apologize. I did not know I was on the agenda for the last time, so I apologize for that. Or I would have been here before to answer your questions, so I apologize. So thank you for letting me here tonight.
We're good. Thanks for coming. All right, do I have a motion on this agreement for the establishment of court technology fund?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement and include the recommendation by staff to include or add the termination clause.
I got a motion on the table. Do I got a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes. Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
All right, discussing and possible consideration of the conceptual master plan for Spruill Bluff.
Mr. Vice Chairman, this is an item that's seen a numerous amount of work sessions. So just a brief history to get us where we are today. The last time this was in one of our work sessions, the board gave staff clear direction to include in the revised master plan for Spruill Bluff the following items, and those are as follows. And EMC staff will be able to walk you through as they do their presentation. But the 6 main elements that the board chose to include moving forward were the addition of a pavilion, special event parking or expanded parking of some kind, additional trail development, and that trail development. All these items I'm mentioning would be on the county portion of the park property, not on the DNR portion of the property. The 4th item was an inclusion of a site for primitive camping, the expansion potentially of additional RV sites, and then the 6th component that was communicated to staff that would actually require coordination with DNR for their properties was the construction, demolition, and reconstruction of bathroom facilities down by the river. So with that, staff engaged EMC via task order to employ those revisions into a revised master plan, which they're going to present to you today. So with that brief introduction, Mr. Vice Chair, I would yield back to you and
Turn it over to
yeah.
EMC.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
As soon as they get.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners, for allowing us to be here today. Just kind of give you all a little background, like Jason mentioned.
That one in the back one.
I don't know if this remote's gonna work for that one.
Okay. I got this paperwork anyway.
Yeah, we got just a little history. As Jason mentioned, the commissioners kind of had a task list that they gave us to work with. If you kind of feel like you've been there, done that before, you kind of have. Y'all seen this before. Starting back in 2006 with DNR, I think they came up with a plan, a very aggressive plan that y'all have all seen before. We took that as a kind of a starting point. We had several workshops for staff made up of community members as well as county employees, discussing the use of the bluff, the revenue, events, and try to how we could better utilize the land that we have, as well as try to increase some of the occupancy and the revenue that this area sees. And what I want to do is just kind of, I have with me Mr. David Friedman. He helped with the master plan as well. We'd like to kind of just walk you through some of our thought processes. Feel free to interrupt us, kind of like, hey, where did this come from? And we can talk about it. And then we have some conceptual images of what some of these features will look like, which is something that we can present as well. And with that being said, if this will load up. Mr. Davis, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Just trying to figure out where to stand, but I guess
Anyway.
it's good. Okay. But I'm David Friedman with Friedman Engineering Group, and we work with EMC for years on different projects. Sometimes I hire them, sometimes they hire me, just whatever seems to be the best fit for the client. We have a lot of experience. My company pretty much exclusively works on park and recreation projects, and I have a landscape architect that does a lot of park planning, and he was involved in this. So what I'd like to do is just kind of walk you through, starting at the top, kind of our thought process. We took into account the 6 things you wanted, but we made some modifications, have some other suggestions that you may consider. But the first thing, as you come into the park, it's a pretty long way from when you get to the county property to where you get to the trading post. So there's, a lot of county property there that to us just seems underutilized. You really don't even realize you're in the park. So what we're recommending is item number 1 would be to relocate the guardhouse. So that's the little house, the pay station where you come in. We thought it'd be best to have that where the property line starts, so people realize they're in the park. And that way you could take advantage of the property from there all the way down. So that's the first thing. Coming down the road, we're recommending overflow parking on either side of the road. The next thing, we've got a new overlook. So I'm coming in on the right side, there'd be a new overlook. On the left side, we're recommending some mountain bike trails, again, because there's a lot of property there that's underutilized or not utilized at all. The other thing we thought would be a good amenity, and that's that orange line, is a multi-use trail. So that would be like a paved trail. I don't know if it'd be concrete or asphalt, but you get a lot of people there that want to walk on the trails. You've got some really challenging trails. I think the Widowmaker, and there's some other ones. Not everybody's going to go out there and walk those trails, and I think there's a need for people to come out, maybe with strollers or kids with bicycles or whatever. So we're talking about a trail network that would start at the property line, loop around, and come back to the trading post. And then also at the trading post, some additional parking, and then it was requested to have some kind of maintenance complex, shed, pole barn, whatever that is, behind the trading post. One of the things we came up with, which is a little different and hasn't been discussed before, But at the pavilion that's there now, I mean, that's the $1 million spot. Everybody wants to go there and look at it. That's a great view, probably one of, the best views in the state. So what we thought, again, that's a little underutilized. So what we're proposing is to add a roof on that structure, make that more of a covered pavilion. It'd be used for rentals, things like family reunions, weddings, just whatever. I mean, it's just such a great spot there. And it wouldn't take away from the public use, because people, as long as it's not rented, people would still be able to go out there and use it. But it's just really a great opportunity. We think it'd get a lot of use. It would provide some additional revenue to the park. So we really thought that was a good idea. In conjunction with that, there's a little building next to the pavilion. There's an office in there and some restrooms. So what we were thinking, if that pavilion did get a roof on it, that you need some support facility. So the office that's there now, we would propose moving that office to somewhere either in the trading post or maybe adding on to the trading post, because there's one person that works there, so she would need an office space somewhere. So move her out, take that building, maybe expand the restrooms, maybe add some storage. Again, the thinking being is that if you're renting that for group functions, you need a place to store chairs and tables and things like that. So that could be accomplished in the building you already have. The one thing I would say, if you do like that idea, whoever works on as far as adding the cover, I mean, you need to preserve that view. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to go in the back and put bathrooms or something or whatever's needed there. I mean, you want to preserve that view, because that's what people would rent that for. I mean, just imagine somebody's having a wedding or a birthday party, graduation, everybody lines up with that view behind. I mean, that's $1 million view. I mean, I've been all over the state, and that's a great place. So anyway, so that's a little different than what we recommended. The next thing we've got, again, is continuing with this trail network. So that, currently there's a trail from the pavilion or overlook platform to the campground, but it's kind of in rough shape. So again, what we thought is to improve that trail, make it a multi-use hard surface trail, make it handicap accessible. Again, it would be easy enough to do that, and loop that back to the trading post. So again, in this concept, you'd have if you start the trading post, you'd have a trail going up towards the entrance, you'd have a trail coming down to the campground. So connect everything with these hard surface trails. So I think there'd be a lot of people out there. Also between the pavilion area or overlook and the campground, there's another opportunity for another pavilion there. So you got some opportunities there. We really didn't get into specifics about how big these things would be or things like that, but you've got a lot of opportunities there. Okay, moving down. The campsites you have now, they're okay. I mean, they've got water connections, they've got power. I believe it's 100 amps, which is most of the big RVs want. You don't have sewer connections. So, I mean, if that's something you wanted to consider, I do a lot of work for the state parks, and that's a big thing they're going to now. Is, these big RVs, they want sewer connections. The other thing, a lot of the campsites we do, they're outlined in timbers. They have a separate parking area, a separate living area that has a picnic table, grill, and a lantern pole. Yours don't quite meet those standards. If you've been to some of the other parks that have some new and improved campsites, yours are okay, but they can certainly be improved there. I'm not knocking your campsites, don't get me wrong, or just looking at ways to improve things out there. And again, get more people there, increase the revenue. Across from the campground, there's a big area there. We really don't know what to do with that. We thought we could get some input from the county, but you got some opportunities there, so we just call that future recreational activities, but there's a pretty big parcel there. Okay, down where Chris has the mouse there, that river platform camping. Again, that's where some of the trails go to. The Widowmaker and some of the others connect there. So I think there's a demand if people are canoeing or kayaking down the river. You could have some camping down there. That would be pretty primitive camping. It would be hard to get materials down there to build anything. You may have to bring them in by water, but I think it would be nice to have a designated camping area, and we've got another one we're going to show you. Okay, so on the other side of the campground, it'd be a good place for additional RV camping, so that's a possibility. and then further down, drive-up camping, that would be tent camping. You really don't have any tent camping there. You know, the camping you've got now is geared toward RVs. I think there's a demand. I think people would be interested in tent camping. So that's a possibility. One thing I would say, when you get into camping, when you start constructing restroom facilities, they're fairly expensive. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, Chris, you want to?
Yeah, then we'll transition down to the actual riverside,
Okay.
more the DNR property that we have access to.
Okay, so this is the DNR property, and again, the river, a tremendous amenity. I mean, it's a great thing. A lot of people want to come there and swim or kayak down or whatever, so we've got a couple of things. The first thing, obviously, I know was on your list was the restroom facility. You know, there's a restroom there now. I hate to admit, but I was the engineer for the DNR, and I designed that restroom back in the day. I'm giving away my age. I think that was my first project out of college.
We're still there.
Yeah, no, but it's not being admitted. It's locked up, and everybody's scared to go in there. But I'm going to offer to go in there and figure out what's wrong with it. But anyway, you do need a new restroom there, whether you modify that one or put a new one. But the reason we did that's the composite toilet, if you're not familiar with that. The reason we did that is there's no utilities there. I mean, you don't have power, you don't have water, so that was the best thing at the time. If you wanted to do a more modern restroom, you know, you'd have to bring some infrastructure down there, which would be relatively expensive. So, you know, as far as your restroom facilities, it may be more composting or vault toilet. There's different things like that. But to get water and power there would probably be almost as much as the cost of building the restroom. Yeah. So again, just something to keep in mind. But you do need a restroom. Item number 3, if you're down at the river and you're walking around, kind of that trail ends, and there's some rocks there, and we thought it might be cool to have like a river overlook. You know, we've done this at some of the other parks. We've got a rock outcrop, and maybe put some stairs. You could walk up to the top of the rocks and look out, you know, up the river. That'd probably be a thing people would want to do. Item number 2, that's a trailhead now, and that's really a great, and I know this is the DNR property, and your priorities are on the county property, but things, you know, again, the master plan's more of a concept, you know, ideas going forward, a vision, you know, it's not something you're going to build all at once, but that's really a great place for a tent camping area. I mean, it's close to the river. I think that's one of the things that are missing is, you know, if you're in the RV campground, to get to the river, you know, you got to drive down there. So I think if you had tent camping in item number 2, you could walk down to the river if you wanted to. You know, if people had boats and stuff, they could potentially wheel their boats down there. I think that's a great place. And then item number 4, further down, that would be more river camping. And that what we're thinking there, that would be a place you would actually pull your boat. It wouldn't be for motorboats, but kayaks and canoes. You'd pull your boats out. There'd be some camping platforms. We did something similar at Chattahoochee Bend State Park in Coweta County, where there's platform camping. It's right near the boat ramp. You take your boats out. You know, your campsite. It's, again, for tents primarily, or people that just want to sleep out in the open. So a wooden platform. You would get up there and spend the night, and you know, hopefully would have a bathroom facility. Go back one. I'm sorry. One thing I wanted to mention. Okay, item number 2, that I don't know what color that is, kind of
yellow.
Yeah. No, but I mean the red around it. I'm not too good with colors, but anyway, that kind of peach color. Those 2 circles, those are what DNR classifies as special plant communities. I'm not sure why they do that. I looked at the things, and as far as the listed plants, it's nothing endangered or protected, but I guess it's just the habitat. But in your contract with the DNR, they say that those are protected plant communities. That doesn't mean you can't build there. I guess it would just be something you'd have to coordinate with the DNR. The other thing, I'm not sure you know, I'll just bring it up, but in your contract with DNR, you know, they mention, you know, protect those plant communities. And there's 3 things that they don't want you to build on the property, which I don't think you would do anyway. One is mountain bike trails, one is horseback trails, and one is like motorized trails for ATVs or something like that. So just so you know that.
And that's probably a liability issue for the main part, so that's why they're steering you away from that. And we'll pop up just some images, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and by no means is this what, you know, we're saying that they, some of these concepts will look like, but give you some ideas of some things that have been in the past or we've seen. This is just a vista outlook, kind of the size that we were envisioning with that first outlook as you came in, something very small, compact, but really utilizing the view. Here's another scenario, seating, some chairs. And David, feel free to jump in if you have anything to add.
This would be your typical trail. Again, it could either be concrete or asphalt, but they're popular. We've done several around the state, and you know, it's amazing. You build these trails, how many people show up and, you know, walk at night or during the day or bikes. I mean, very popular. So this was kind of our vision of what that pavilion could potentially be like, the main one when you come in that platform. If you, and again, these are just ideas and not designs, but you know, something where it would have a cover and you'd have that view out along the river. Could be something like that, something similar.
Then your more traditional pavilion that we wanted to come down the road a little bit, this would be that second pavilion. Interaction with kids, community. Could it incorporate the amphitheater? I know that kind of came up a few times in our work session, you know, maybe having an amphitheater.
And this is an idea that this actually isn't this is more of a cabin, but same thing, the idea with the campsites, that you'd have a defined living area that would be next to a defined parking area. I don't know if any of you guys park or have RVs, but you know, that's kind of the latest thing.
Yep. A fire ring, a barbecue grill, and some seating.
And the other thing too, it protects the area, you know, from getting erosion and things like that. And then just some tent camping or platform camping.
And that's got your defined edges, like David said, just kind of have each site that could be identified, rented out. The platforms that we see a lot here in recent times.
So that would be kind of, if you did the platform camping by the river, that would be what it would look like.
And the curb and gutter camping. Bring the car out there, turn your radio on, and put your tent out. And that's gaining a lot of popularity, especially with COVID. We're seeing you know, these spaces utilized and booked out almost a year in advance, it seems like.
Yeah, the state parks, their revenue and attendance is off the charts since the virus started. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That's kind of a 10,000-foot overview. I know a lot of information we threw at you, but we want to kind of let you know the basis of our findings, you know, kind of the true north that we started at, and open it up for any questions or comments from the commissioners.
Anybody got any serious questions?
There's got to be one question.
I don't have a question for them, but for Jason. So I guess what would be the next steps? I mean, if we were to decide on something, or I don't, you know, whatever the thought process may be, it would be to obtain some pricing, and then so anything that, I mean, we're not selecting anything tonight or saying, okay, this is we're moving forward with this. I mean, that would be a process.
Yeah. So what staff and engineering staff was hoping to gain from tonight was, so you know, we've come this far, and of course we've got the 6 key elements built into this, and they've taken a little artistic license to say, all right, well, you may also want to reserve room in the future for some of these other smaller elements here. We would be looking for commission approval of the general concept, so then we could prioritize some of these projects. And you know, the intent was to get a few of these projects done this calendar year. And as the board knows, we have a finite amount of SPLOST funding for these projects. So even if we just stuck to the original core 6, there's, you know, with the level of funding that we have available now, there's no possible way we could do all 6. but we would want to identify a couple that we can get into the design phase and get some more concrete numbers. Chris probably has some napkin style numbers on some of the big projects that you have, and he may want to share them with you. You may not. I mean, he shared it with me a few days ago. I don't know how refined they are.
David and I talked, I think we're in the ballpark. If y'all want to say, hey, what does item number 12 cost? I think we've got some information that we can share with the commissioners. But like Jason said, I think once we get some buy-in or some direction, we can start picking a few of these off and advance them to a point where we can get contractors involved and get some hard pricing and see what you want to implement. I think we've got some pie in the sky stuff, and then I think there's some very low-hanging fruit items that we can jump on pretty quick, and get a lot of bang for your buck. I think that if you're asking my opinion, that multi-purpose trail, I believe that would be one of the instant gratifications that you're getting. That was kind of encompassed in one of the marching orders that we had. We understand the bathrooms are going to be an issue. From an engineering standpoint, with the cost of utilities, I think you're going to have to look at some type of, on-site or compost type system for definitely at the river. The challenge that we're going to run into at the RV site is available utilities, power, and water and sewer. That's something that we'd have to vet out, and that's going to get into a little more engineering and supply. We can look at doing a large, septic field across the road and some of that area that we identified as future use. All that are definitely scenarios that we can look at, but I don't think the intent and the budget will stand running a utility line or a force main or have a lift station. The elevation is just too low, and the closest utility, get with Garrett, we just kind of put it on a map and running some numbers, but it got very expensive very quickly.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, in response to Commissioner Watson's question, we would want approval of some kind of what the ultimate master plan would be, knowing, and I think Commissioner Ellington and I had this conversation this afternoon at length. I think the one thing we need to be clear of is that, say if it was approved as presented, the one thing we need to be clear is that this is not something that we're not going to complete all these items in the next 18 months. This is more like the next 18 years. But we do want to complete a couple of these items. I know RV sites was something that the commission was keen on, and we really kind of want to move on those. Primitive camping was another one, and additional trails was another one. So getting some of the feedback that I've gotten since EMC's presented this draft, and in some of the conversations I've had with the board in multiple work sessions, those were kind of the items that always were rising to the top. Obviously, to be able to work on those, we have to know where they fit into the grand scheme of the plan overall. So at some point we just need to solidify what our concept is, and then we can move forward on some of the specifics.
Y'all want to move on this conceptual plan, knowing that we're not going to do anything until we have some serious talk about it, right? Like cost and, what's the number one thing you think we need to start on? James, you got any idea?
For you.
Trail development.
Trail development. My number one thing is anything on county property.
Right, that's right.
I think
We keep dollars at home. And as I look at this, I'm gonna be honest, when I first seen this, I was like, wow, where did this come from? Okay, but as I look at it and as I heard you talk, I want to tell you something that's kind of got me a little excited is this multi-use trail. That look, for lack of a better word, that's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think that would be highly used. I think that's something that everybody's not up to the challenge of hiking through the woods and up and down the hill, and this will give some opportunity for some folks that may not want to get out there and go on a hike. The ability to go out there and walk around this trail.
And
I like that.
I can't promise you, but our goal would be to make it handicap accessible, the entire line.
And, now I don't know what the process will be for removing the debris from the area and putting down that. I mean, all that's an expense, but.
You got any rough guesstimates on
It's
it?
cheaper than wood right now.
4-weight sheet of plywood, if you put that. I think, just kind of high level, the multi-use paved trail loop, I mean, don't hold me to it and make me buy it if it comes in more or less. We're in the $400,000 range, and that's having a paved or concrete surface.
That's the one item, right?
Yeah. And I'm not saying, hey, let's throw everything, throw everything out and pick that. I'm just saying, I guess I'm just saying, hey, I'm really intrigued by that, by that design.
And what we try to do is give that connectivity that David talked about, kind of get you immersed in the county property, because that's what we want to do. We wanted to showcase that. Understand, when I first came here, I didn't differentiate between the two because I felt it was one continuous piece. But as we did the study more on our property, we realized that there's a lot of key elements that we can highlight. And with the connectivity, when you check in and go by the trading post and get down to the RV site and primitive camping and tent camping and get it all tied together, that's pretty wild. And we can do multiple loops, different mileages, and that's something, I'm a hiker, David's a hiker. That's what we do. We're looking on the weekend, looking at all trails, trying to find somewhere close to us to go to. And I think this will be something to add to everything else that we have in Upson County.
How, you know what the distance is?
Yeah.
My glasses.
I think we had some winter footage on there, didn't we, David?
In a second, I gotta get my glasses. Sorry.
I'm good. I can't see without mine either.
It's about 4,000 linear feet. I had 32,000 square feet, so I figured an 8-foot
8 foot,
width. That's
yeah.
what most
Give you plenty of room.
So about 4,000. That would be the top one. Would be 4,000. Then the second one, let me find that one. The second one, that was 20,000 square feet, so divided by 8, that was.
Yeah, about
2,500 linear feet. So yeah, I mean, nice trails. I don't know if you ever go up to Helen, if you've been up to Helen lately, but Chris and I worked on a project up there. We did a multi-use trail that goes from downtown Helen, the southern end of Helen, to this place called Hardeman Farm, a historic site along the Chattahoochee River. And I think it's about a mile.
Yeah, it's very nice. I was up there 6 months ago with a 7-year-old and an 18-month-old, just having a good time. It's that type of trail that you get onto right next to the Chattahoochee, and those are just kind of same premises that we bring to the table here.
Got something?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with, kind of moving forward with this concept, because that's what it is, it's a concept. I mean, I like having things that we can tackle immediately, but then future plans. Initially, I mean, my thought was, let's get numbers on at least the 6 that we've already established as the priority. Because, I mean, there may be 3 that we could hit, and, maybe compared to that 1, we just got to weigh the options.
Right.
But I do agree that more handicap accessible trails is pretty neat. I like the mountain bike trails. I think that's low hanging fruit, can be established pretty quick and easy. And there's a big push for that market.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard of Standing Boy Trail in Columbus, but they just implemented about 100 miles of mountain bike trail in Columbus on some DNR property that they bought. And it's every time you go to the trailhead, there's 20, 30 cars there every time with mountain bikes and everything. So that's a sport that's really taken off.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The other question I had, as far as yourself, Shaka, Spear Bluff Advisory Committee, have they seen this?
At this point, I don't think the rec director has seen it in this version.
I know that those people that you mentioned were part of all of our meetings that we had,
Yeah.
the charrettes that we had, as well as when we had basically a rendering, a hand-drawn rendering of this concept. I know that was some of that. So, I don't know if y'all ever
They
sent
had
that back.
they had the draft of it, but they didn't have the
Yeah.
final.
So,
product.
I guess if you don't mind, if I can ask Austin, from the committee standpoint, is this something y'all behind?
So the advisory committee has not went over this. We haven't met since it's been produced, but we pretty much created that minus just, the additional things. So I think I can speak for them and just say that, that's what we'd like to see.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Watson. I think it's a design plan. I mean, we only have the resources to do so much, but at least we got a plan where we don't have to sit around and agree to disagree for 6 months to try to figure out what the next plan, what we're gonna do. At least we got it listed on here. We got that much decided already. Now, which one we choose to do, probably it'll take 6 months, but at least we got a plan in front of us moving forward. So conceptually I'm okay with the plan. I just know that we got to determine as a board what we want to do, what projects we can afford to do, and move forward.
Either one of y'all want to put that in a motion?
If I could just chime in, Commissioner. So the county manager and I, we've already talked about preparing budget items for each of these ones that we listed. And we're maybe not ready to share everything today, but I think at the end of the day, we'll have something that we can take back at the next work session and say, hey, 1 through 20, this is what it's cost in there. And to kind of piggyback on what you said about the master plan, what we try to do is give that vision where we don't build something today that's going to hurt us tomorrow. Right. And that's what we're looking for buy-in from the commissioners is that, things can change, things can move, but, we've got some type of finite elements in place that gives us a sense of community and use, because we can hodgepodge this thing together, and I've seen it happen too many times. You go build, one group builds this and with good intentions, but it don't fit characteristically with the property. And David and his team, and when we met on the Bluff site, we walked the entire property and out there sketching like, wow, this is a place that we need to really key in on. And I think you'll miss that if you're just out there building components and not looking at the property as the whole 34-something acres that we have out there.
And this is truly the first master plan for county property.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
To date, we didn't have one of these, so.
Do I get y'all need a motion on this? To accept this?
Yeah, that would be our staff's preference, so that we would have something spread across the minutes that we're in agreement.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Vice Chair, that we approve this conceptual master plan of Spiro Bluff, including county's portion of the property, with the exception of then we'll wait the work session to determine projects, and EMC will provide us cost estimates on those projects.
Right. Have I got a second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes. Thank y'all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope we're over the hump.
6 months.
We got it on record.
We're going downhill.
Slowly going downhill.
And, just check the brakes every once in a while. All right. Next on the agenda is discussion and approval of the 2021 tentative millage rate.
Mr. Vice Chairman, you have in your packet what Department of Revenue refers to as a PT 32 form, which is essentially a calculation of what all the commissioners are familiar with is our rollback rate for the 2020 digest. Mm-hmm. The current millage rate is 8.600, and this is for county maintenance and operations, or M&O as we say. Staff is recommending that we advertise or authorize the tax commissioner to advertise the millage rate of 8.280. So just a couple of highlights as to why that's so significantly lower. Really what that is if you'll see in on the third column from the top, the reassessment of existing real property, that's 26.1 million and change. That is essentially what the assessors have determined to be an increase or an inflationary increase in our digest, and that is the portion that that we're rolling back through this process, which then we're going to realize, in addition to the digest, and this is new constructions or other additions that didn't exist before, of 20.2 million. So we were roughly pretty even on inflation versus additions, which is a very good thing to see. That's not been a trend that we've seen historically over the last 10-year period. But after my review, and more importantly, our finance officer's review, we're very comfortable recommending the advertisement of the rollback rate. And essentially what that is we're authorizing the tax commissioner to run the necessary advertisements in the paper. And then once we do that and consider for approval of that millage rate on August 10th, the board would be able to go lower than that rate but not higher without having to redo the process. So if you have any specific questions about, I'll try to answer them, but it's staff recommendation that we advertise 8.280 as the rate for County M&O.
And I can't get mine to pull up right now, but it just,
You can pass it.
8.28, and I just wanted to highlight what our previous millage rate was.
8.600.
All right, so that's an accomplishment right there in itself. So, that we need to, and this is just a tentative, so I feel good about that. Where's the newspaper in the?
He's out in the hall.
He's out. Oh, look.
Newspaper right there.
We need to talk about this. This is good things.
We'll have a discussion when it's over.
I just wanted to highlight that I think that's a good thing.
All right. Any other comments, questions? I think it's a good job. I think we're moving forward. Need a motion if y'all want this.
I make a motion we approve as presented on the millage rate of
8.280.
That's 8.820.
No, 8.280.
What he said.
You went up. Yeah, you went up.
Yeah.
We going down. So I need a second on it.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes. And that concludes. Now that's manager, do you have anything you want to comment on?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I just have one comment, and I want to make it very general. And there's probably a lot of people I need to thank. As our economic developer pointed out, we're in a very tough labor market right now, and we're not excluded from that. And we have a number of open positions here in the county. So first of all, if you're interested in public service, I would highly recommend you contact anyone you may see on this broadcast, because we have a lot of great job opportunities. But more than that, with the number of vacancies that we have, and unfortunately still slowly growing, to keep things running, I just want to say overall the staff has shown an incredible resiliency and is showing levels of cooperation and teamwork that I've not really experienced a whole lot in my life. I saw people outside doing work that were from other departments that weren't even necessarily supposed to be there after hours. There were some salaried people out there cutting grass tonight. And I just, a lot of those people that I'm speaking of are in this room, and a lot of them are not. I don't want to mention any of them specifically because I'll miss somebody. But I just want to say thanks to my staff, to your staff, for rolling up your sleeves and chipping in and doing jobs that are not on your job description, but doing what it takes to get things done. So that's the only comment I wanted to make for tonight.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yep. Ms. Jones, you got anything?
I don't.
You never say anything. I know you got something, you know, you're gonna wanna say one of these days.
I'm sure she'll tell it too.
Mr. Heath, you got anything?
I don't have anything. Thank you, though.
Mr. Lorenzo?
I want to say how it's good to see the people cutting the grass because there's some grass that really need cutting throughout the county, especially the parks.
Mr. Ellington?
I got a couple things. Number one, Kyle, your weekly, monthly, bi-weekly letter. Yes, I do read it. It's very informative. Thank you for
Yes, sir.
keeping that updated. As we talked about millage rates tonight and tennis millage rate, I want to bring back up the subject. I know we have one-off conversations on it, and we're kind of going through some processes now. But I just want to let the public know that this board it has ongoing discussions about some tax relief in ways of the word I'm looking for right now is homestead exemptions. We're still working on that. We're waiting for some final numbers to come through, and then we're going to start the process. We've already reached out to our state representative to start that process. Combined with good news like this, I mean, it's one thing we can't control. We can control the millage rate, but we cannot control values. I can't control what somebody sells something. When they put it up for sale, if they put it up for sale for more than it's worth and somebody's willing to pay that, that dictates the value. We can't control that, but we can control the millage rate. So I want the public to know that we do have those thoughts, and we have those sidebar conversations, and we have work sessions, and we discuss things like that, and we're looking at those exemptions right now, especially homestead. I'm a big fan of homestead personally because it impacts everyone, every property owner it impacts, more ever than the homeowner it impacts, and so I think that's a positive way to help the taxpayer, and I thank Jason. I'd like to welcome him officially to Upson County.
That's right.
Been here a while, but he's going to reside here now. And he's in my district, by the way.
Thank you.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Watson?
Yeah, just to touch on what Jason said, I was also surprised to see who was out front cutting when I pulled up. So I would applaud our staff, and everybody's, I think, stepping up and going above and beyond when we do have a lot of positions open. Hopefully we'll get some of these filled sooner rather than later. So I would applaud our entire staff, Jason, with your leadership. I think everything's running smoothly. So that's all I have.
Okay. I appreciate everybody that stayed, and appreciate everybody that was watching us online, and I do want to ask Kyle something. It probably might be past this. Since the governor quit taking the extra $300 for unemployment, have we shown an interest in people going back to work?
No, sir, unfortunately not.
Well, they'll catch one of these days.
We're hoping so.
Yep. We need workers in this county that want to make an income, and there are plenty of jobs out there. I mean, doesn't matter what you want to do, it's here to do. You just if anybody thinks that there's nothing to do in Thomaston, there's plenty to do. So, and that's it. I appreciate all y'all coming.
Mr. Vice Chair, we do need to mention one other thing, but we leave that, we need to remind the folks that we do have a picnic coming up.
Friday. Lunchtime.
Mention that.
Yep, we do. That's it, guys. I appreciate y'all coming. Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
What's going on?
Thank you for the tax
break.
Thank you.
Is it
It's very significant across the entire city. So, I'll get that. And you didn't get I'll send it to Jessica.
Thank you.
You told me you don't.
Hi guys, thank you. This straight one.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll get your, are you guys on to the amendment?
No, the rec department.
You're gonna work on it? Okay, alright, thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, City. Well, never mind.
Nice job.
Too.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm out.